The courtroom was buzzing with whispers that morning, other kind of uneasy murmurs that fill the air when something unexpected is about to happen. All eyes were fixed on the man standing alone at the defense table, John Kennedy. Not the famous politician, not the seasoned attorney, but a quiet, working-class mechanic from a small town who had decided to represent himself in a high-stakes legal battle. What followed that day would leave the entire courtroom stunned, and the judge himself humbled by a lesson in courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable human spirit. John Kennedy wasn't supposed to be there, at least, that's what everyone thought. A man who'd spent most of his life fixing engines, not reading law books. John found himself in court after a large corporation accused him of breaching a contract, a contract he claimed he never even signed knowingly. Unable to afford the steep fees demanded by attorneys, John made a bold choice. He would defend himself. The decision drew both sympathy and ridicule from those around him. Even the opposing lawyer, a polished professional with years of experience, smirked when John walked onto the courtroom with a stack of handwritten notes and a trembling hand clutching a worn-out binder. As proceedings began, Judge Harold Simmons, a man known for his stern demeanor and little patience for amateurs, raised an eyebrow. When John nervously stumbled over his opening statement, the courtroom rippled with laughter. The judge himself cracked a smile, shaking his head slightly. "Mr. Kennedy," he said, his tone half patronizing, "I hope you understand what you're getting yourself into." But John didn't back down. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling but steadying with each word. "Your Honor," he replied, "I may not be a lawyer, but I know what's right, and I believe that if the truth is given a fair chance, it will speak louder than my lack of experience." The laughter faded. Over the next few hours, something extraordinary unfolded. John began to dismantle the opposing counsel's arguments piece by piece. His questions were simple, almost naive, yet razor-sharp in their logic. He brought out copies of old emails, receipts, and communication logs he had carefully organized over sleepless nights. With every page he presented, his story grew clearer. The corporation had indeed altered contract details after his signature, hoping he wouldn't notice. The courtroom's tone shifted. Even the judge, who had once looked amused, now leaned forward, his pen frozen mid-note. John's voice grew stronger, fueled by the truth and by the sheer weight of what he had endured. Months of stress, humiliation, and financial struggle. His cross-examination of the corporate representative left the witness fumbling for words. At one point, when the opposing lawyer objected to John's phrasing, the judge overruled the objection, almost protectively. By the time John finished, the room was silent. The same people who had laughed at him now sat in awe. The judge looked at him for a long moment before speaking. His tone softened, almost emotional. "Mr. Kennedy," he said quietly, "I must admit I underestimated you." John didn't smile. He just nodded, exhaustion written across his face. "All I ever wanted," he said, "was a fair chance." After a brief recess, the judge returned with his ruling. The evidence John had presented was clear and compelling. The corporation's claims were dismissed, and John was awarded damages for emotional and financial distress. As the verdict was read, John closed his eyes, tears streaming down his cheeks, not from victory, but from relief. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. When asked how a man with no legal background managed to stand against an entire corporation, John gave a simple answer that would echo across social media within hours: "You don't need a degree to know the truth. You just need the courage to stand up for it." The video of the judge's reaction went viral, viewed millions of times within days. People around the world were inspired by John's story, a man who dared to fight not with wealth or influence, but with honesty, preparation, and heart. Law schools discussed his case as an example of perseverance and the importance of self-advocacy. In the weeks that followed, letters poured in from strangers thanking him for reminding them never to underestimate their own power. John, now back at his small-town garage, would sometimes stop working just to read them, each one a testament to what one ordinary person could do when they refused to be silenced. And as for Judge Simmons, he would later remark in an interview, "In my years on the bench, I've seen brilliant lawyers lose because they forgot the human side of justice. John Kennedy reminded me that true wisdom doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it comes in grease-stained hands and a humble heart. The story of John Kennedy became more than a courtroom drama. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in a world tilted toward the powerful, the voice of truth can still shake the walls of authority. And perhaps that's why his story continues to resonate, because deep down, everyone longs to believe that courage, honesty, and faith can still triumph even in the unlikeliest of places.